Big Ten versus SEC, the high-stakes college football playoff showdown. The future of college football hangs by a thread, and two powerhouse conferences hold all the cards. But here's where it gets controversial. The entire college football playoff structure faces a high-stakes showdown where fairness clashes with raw power. Everyone acknowledges the current system is stacked in favor of certain conferences. There's absolutely a deal to be struck about the CFP's future, but only when the dominant players stop their strategic bluffing. This week, all eyes turn to Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti as he heads to, where else, Las Vegas for the conference's annual football media days. Picture this like a high-roller poker game. Petitti will face media questions Tuesday covering everything from unresolved athlete revenue-sharing legislation to his alleged intervention requesting NCAA leniency for Michigan's sign-stealing scandal, as reported by the Detroit News. Yet the real jackpot, college football's postseason structure, remains in limbo while the chip leaders, Big Ten and SEC, decide how to split the winnings. And this is the part most people miss. While four entities sit at the negotiation table, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, and ACC, a signed agreement among all FBS commissioners, and Notre Dame reveals this is fundamentally a heads-up clash between Petitti and his SEC counterpart, Greg Sankey. They'll publicly downplay their influence, because good sportsmanship and savvy politics demand it, but Sankey himself dropped a tell at SEC Media Days. We don't need unanimity. Translation: compromise is inevitable, but the terms will heavily favor the power brokers. Now the explosive controversy. The Big Ten champions a 16-team model granting itself and the SEC for automatic bids each, while the ACC and Big 12 get just two apiece, plus one bid reserved for a group of 6 conferences and 3 at-large spots. Critics blast this as outright surrender by the ACC/Big 12, arguing it effectively signs their death warrant by codifying their secondary status. But here's the counterpunch. The ACC and Big 12 proposed a radically different 5+11 model. This version awards auto bids only to the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, mirroring the current 12-team setup, with 11 at-large berths, prioritizing competitive merit over conference pedigree. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark passionately defended this as fair and equitable, while emphasizing, "We have the responsibility to do what's right for college football, not what's right for 1 or 2 conferences." Controversy alert: is the Big Ten/SEC push for unequal auto bids a pragmatic recognition of real-world influence or pure power-grabbing greed? And Sankey throws gasoline on the fire by suggesting the existing 12-team format, set for 2025, with minor tweaks, might just work fine. Why rush into an expanded playoff, he implies, when current issues could be overstated? But let's be real, money is the relentless engine here. An extra 2 playoff games means billions in TV revenue, with ESPN's current $1.3 billion annual deal through 2031 just the starting point. This financial tsunami likely forces the Big Ten toward a version of the 5+11 model, but with a massive catch. They'll demand the SEC and ACC adopt 9-game conference schedules, matching the Big Ten's current setup, and agree to a groundbreaking non-conference scheduling alliance. Think Big Ten/ACC basketball challenges, but for football, a move that'd spike media rights value for both leagues. Now the elephant in the room, the SEC's perceived invincibility. After dominating 6 of 8 national titles pre-2023, the SEC stumbled to a 2-3 playoff record last winter, including Alabama's shock loss to Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Yet SEC coaches like Kalen DeBoer still tout their conference as top to bottom as strong as you'll find. Early season clashes, Texas at Ohio State, Michigan at Oklahoma, will test that swagger, but the true litmus test arrives in the playoff crucible. With a November 30th deadline looming, Sankey's calm confidence, "We have the best hand," faces its ultimate showdown against Petitti's leverage. Final provocation for debate: should college football embrace a playoff model that acknowledges the Big Ten/SEC duopoly as an undeniable reality, or must the sport cling to competitive fairness, even if it means rocking the boat? And here's the twist: could forcing the SEC into tougher schedules backfire by exposing their depth? Voice your take below. Is this negotiation about preserving tradition or cementing a new oligarchy? CFP expansion debate. 12-team playoff versus 16-team fix. Picture this: college football, a sport steeped in tradition and fiercely protective of its postseason format, is now at a crossroads. The debate over playoff expansion has reached fever pitch, with powerful voices on both sides vying for control. At the heart of the discussion lies a simple yet contentious question: does college football really need a 16-team playoff system when the current 12-team model seems to be working just fine? And here's where it gets controversial: what if adding more teams doesn't actually improve the game but instead dilutes its essence? Rewind to the Bowl Championship Series, BCS, era, and you'll find a sport that was dead set against any kind of expanded playoff system. Back in 2007, then Ohio State President E. Gordon G. famously quipped, "They will wrench a playoff system out of my cold, dead hands." Fast forward nearly 2 decades, and lo and behold, a playoff system exists, and G is alive and well, having recently retired from his second tenure as president of West Virginia University at the age of 81. What has changed dramatically, however, is college football's attitude toward expanding its postseason field. For decades, the sport stubbornly clung to the idea that only 2 teams deserved a shot at the national championship. But now, talk of moving from a 12-team playoff to a 16-team format was already underway before the first-ever 12-team playoff even took place last season. It's as if the sport has shifted into hyperdrive, consequences be damned. Fire. Ready. Aim. Amid the chaos, there's a silver lining. The 2 biggest power brokers in college football, the SEC and the Big Ten, can't seem to agree on how to structure a potential 16-team playoff. This disagreement has effectively hit the pause button on expansion plans, raising the possibility that no changes will occur by 2026, as originally intended. Instead, the 12-team model might get a chance to breathe and mature, allowing stakeholders to evaluate whether further tweaks are truly necessary. We have a 12-team playoff, 5 conference champions, SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey remarked earlier this week. That could stay if we can't agree. And why the rush, anyway? The 2025 season will unfold under the existing 12-team format, which grants automatic bids to 5 conference champions and fills the remaining 7 spots with at-large selections. Gone is last year's awkward stipulation that only conference champions could occupy the top 4 seeds, a rule that led to some uneven matchups, like Boise State and Arizona State sneaking in ahead of more competitive programs. This adjustment alone represents meaningful progress born out of real-world experience. Why not let it play out a little longer? The SEC envisions a 16-team playoff that maintains the current framework of automatic bids for champions from the ACC, Big 12, Big 10, SEC, and the best of the so-called group of 6 conferences. The remaining slots would go to at-large teams. Meanwhile, the Big 10 has countered with a proposal that would grant 4 automatic bids each to the Big 10 and SEC, 2 apiece to the ACC and Big 12, 1 to the group of 6, and 3 at-large berths. This formula has been humorously dubbed the 4-4-2-2-1-3 model because, well, college athletics leaders love their jargon almost as much as they love revenue streams. While other conferences, like the ACC and Big 12, have weighed in, mostly siding with the SEC, the ultimate decision rests with the 2 heavyweight leagues. As of now, neither side appears willing to budge. A compromise may still emerge, but the deadline to finalize the 2026 format is fast approaching, November 30th. Interestingly, Sankey himself supports moving to a 9-game SEC schedule, despite resistance from his own coaches. But here's the twist: what if the status quo prevails for a bit longer? What the Big Ten is proposing amounts to yet another seismic shift in a sport that has already weathered plenty of upheaval in recent years: conference realignment, the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, nil rights, revenue-sharing disputes, and more. Under the Big Ten's plan, multiple play-in games would take place during conference championship weekend. While the top 2 teams would compete for the league title as usual, the 3rd and 4th place teams would face off against the 5th and 6th place finishers to determine additional automatic bids. If implemented across all conferences, this could balloon the playoff field to as many as 26 teams, with 22 involved in play-in scenarios. Such a change would fundamentally alter the landscape of college football. Non-conference games, once a critical part of the schedule, could lose much of their significance. Mediocre teams might sneak into the playoffs. For instance, last year's sixth-place finisher in the Big Ten, Iowa, went 8-5 overall. Is that really the direction the sport wants to head? Sure, conferences would gain more high-value inventory to sell to broadcasters, but it's hardly a financial windfall. Plus, those extra first-round games would need to find suitable TV slots and maintain relevance. Are fans clamoring for this? Do we genuinely need 16 teams, or even more, with multi-bid opportunities? Consider this: in the inaugural 12-team playoff, the first round wasn't exactly a nail-biter, averaging a whopping 19.3-point margin of victory. It felt similar to the NFL's wildcard round, designed primarily to ensure no deserving contender was left out. Was last year an anomaly? Could future iterations be closer? Or might they become even more lopsided? Wouldn't it make sense to gather more data before rushing into another round of expansion? Critics argued about the selection committee choosing SMU and Indiana over Alabama, but was it really such a travesty? Debates over bubble teams are inevitable, regardless of the playoff size. After all, Alabama stumbled last season with losses to two 6-6 teams. Expanding the field means squads with similarly mediocre records could waltz right in. Is that what fans want? Ultimately, these decisions are being made without sufficient real-world evidence to support or refute the merits of expansion. Allowing the 12-team model to run its course for a few more seasons, providing valuable insights, and uncovering unforeseen consequences, wouldn't hurt anyone. You don't have to channel your inner Gordon G. from 2007 to see the wisdom in letting things simmer before jumping into another wave of change. So tell us, do you think college football should expand to 16 teams, or is the current 12-team format enough?